This is the other half of that really bad twisted black locust log. And I'm gonna attempt to straighten it out today and maybe get a start with a straight edge down here and split it. And I'm gonna try and get a stave or two. My favorite recurve, one of the first hickory recurves I made way back in the day that I've shot hundreds of times. The other day it had a little crack and it broke. So what I like to do is I'd like to take this raw black locust and get a nice stave and make a recurve and fire harden the black locust recurve with this log that was cut down this year. So that's my goal, is to straighten out this really crooked stave and make a bow. This is the straight edge I'm going for. Mask and goggles are a must for this wood. It's an irritant and it's poisonous. And then use a broom to brush it off. Okay, now that I kind of got a straight edge, cut and split, I got to take the painted end off so we can check out the growth rings. And this one here has a little less than 1 inch of sapwood that I'm going to trim. Okay, now I can check out the growth rings, the sapwood, and I could do some trimming with the circular saw. Okay, there's like a little less than an inch of sapwood. And I trimmed it, and we're going to start removing some sapwood off the edge there. As I said in a prior video, the first bow I attempted that I poisoned myself with, when I laid out the limbs, there was whitewood in the limbs. The limbs were all whitewood. And they said, that's no good. That was the sapwood. Even though as I was using a draw knife, there was a little thin hardwood layer. In between that hardwood layer was sapwood and then the solid hardwood. So now I learned I trim off, I get rid of this sapwood so I don't have to worry about it or deal with it. And even, you know, I'll have to go down a couple of growth rings. It's okay, I got rid of the problem, you know? So this is just about off. It's off. Okay, it's off. I just got to trim it. Okay, so once again, I just wanted kind of a straight edge, and I trimmed it. This here, I traced out with a magic marker, the line. Okay, so that's the center line. I'm going to use the circular saw and run it down that magic marker line, right down the middle, on each end where the circular saw stopped. I'm just tapping the axe in here, make a little start, because what I'm going to do is turn it over and put the chalk line in that groove from end to end and run another cut underneath with the circular saw. This way. Okay, I have both cuts on both sides with the circular saw, and sometimes the plan works, sometimes it don't, but it seems to be split in between those two cuts. Well, look at that. It's working. Made a circular saw cut top and bottom, and I'm getting two staves that I can further trim up. So my approach to trimming these is a little unorthodox, but then again, I'm 65 years old, have a lot of different health things going on with me, and if I could use power tools, I'm going to use them. So like I said earlier, the sapwood, sapwood and the bark are really the irritant to begin with. But the first time I attempted this, there was all the white wood in the limbs and it was no good. You need this heartwood underneath. So I drew a line along the growth ring there, the bottom of the sapwood. And I'm going to just trim it with the circular saw best I can. I'll have to go down a couple of growth rings, you know, and I'll flip it over and do the same on the other side here. And then I'm going to use a axe and split it off, and then we'll work on getting the growth ring down. Okay, as I'm following this around, you see the ring curves. The saw kind of gets a little snug, so I put the axe in here to wedge it apart and take a little relief off of there. Okay. The reason I'm using a circular saw, it's easy, it's convenient. The bandsaw, they say you shouldn't really go through bark with, and it's working out. Okay, so what I did now was I managed to take off the sapwood and the bark. Okay, because I actually have to go down a couple of growth rings here, I just want to show you the draw knife. I'm going to take down some with the draw knife, and I get to a point where I can't use the draw knife on raw wood because it'll start peeling. But I got a lot of wood to take off here, and I'm going on one angle. And I got the growth rings exposed on the end here. And I got the other angle. And then the middle. I got so much wood to take off here to get down to the growth ring I want, because of when I trimmed it, tearing out and all splitting. Getting the sapwood off. But it's all good. I'm going to get down to that growth ring. They say if you're going to make a recurve, never use a piece like this. Get the straightest, best piece you can to make it easier. And I figure, well, this is a piece of raw wood that is twisted. I'm going to be steaming it anyway to put the recurve ends in it. I got nothing to lose. I don't want to waste the wood, so I'll make this 65 inches. I'm going to get it down to the point where I can follow a growth ring, and let's see if I can make a recurve out of it. Okay, this is the ring I'm chasing, and I believe that this is the flatter ring that I'll have to chase, and it'll start going up. If anything, I'll have to have a couple of rings to go down on that end. That's what I believe. Well, it's been a couple of hours trying to chase this growth ring, get it down. I just about got it now, I believe. A little bit with maybe tomorrow with the cabinet scraper to finish up. But I think once I get done here, I'm going to lay out the bow and trim it. And if nothing else, I'll have a small area to get to that growth ring the way I want it. Layout, I put a layout on this crooked stave here, this twisted stave I took it down to the growth ring, followed the ring all the way down. I'm going to trim this up. If I had a perfect stave, like they say you should have a perfect stave for a recurve to avoid problems, then I would have changed the layout a little bit. I would have made the limbs maybe a little bit thicker. But because this is so twisted, I let the stave dictate to me how I'm going to lay out the design. Okay, so it's just a little bit different. It should work out. I'm going to trim it up, and I'll show you when I'm done trimming it up. Okay, it's getting late. I'm done. Even though it's cold and all the neighbors have their windows closed, I have to stop at the belt sander. I don't want to drive them crazy. And this is it. Look at this. Was this twisted? Still twisted, but I got it. Right? Look at it. Look how nice it is, right? And I got one more twisted stave there to make a bow out of too. This is going to be a recurve. And I know they say if you make a recurve, you really should start out with a straight, perfect piece. But I'm going to make it out of this twisted one. I figure I'm going to steam it in my steamer, and the little twist that I got, I'll be able to take out and clamp it. Okay. So this recurve is going to be called Toxic Curves. Okay, this is my Toxic Curves recurve. All right, so I tried to floor tiller it, took a lot of material off. It barely goes. So it's going to rain for a couple of days, and then when I come out, I'm going to keep on working on the belt sander. I'm going to get it to bend nice, and I'm going to steam it and use my recurve jig with the belt, try and keep some fibers from lifting, and we'll see what we come up with. But this is it so far, a whole day's worth of work. Okay, it's the next morning. It's going to rain in about 2 hours, and we're going to have rain for like 3 days, but it's enough time for me to get this floor tillered. But I wanted to talk about something. You know, all the wood that I've been using is raw wood. This black locust came from a log that was cut down a couple of months ago, a month and a half ago. Okay, and sometimes when you're chasing a growth ring, you can see it looks pretty good, right? I did a good job. When you chase a growth ring, you know, sometimes you can see those islands, high spots, and you have to take them off with a cabinet scraper. So as I'm taking them off, sometimes you get little gouges because the wood's so soft. You can't use a draw knife on this a lot of times on a raw wood. It wants to tear because it's soft. It's raw wood. You use the cabinet scraper trying to get that island down, you know, the growth ring down, and sometimes it'll make little tiny tears, like little gouges. So what I used in between, I mean, I love this multi-tool for many things, you know, for shaping and all. It's really one of the best purchases I ever made. But I go back and forth on that ring a little bit, you know, not a lot, just back and forth. And I forget what grit it is. It's like a 80 or 100 grit on that. And as I take it down, you know, I sand those little gouges I make. And then I use the cabinet scraper to clean it up. And between using both, I'm able to eliminate that island without too much tear out. And listen, for all you guys that are experts and you could use whatever you want to take it down, good for you. I'm old. I do what works for me. This is raw wood. This stave here is going to be recurved and fire hardened, and I'm going to have a shootable bow. And it's only going to be like 3 months old, okay? So I got a pristine back now. It worked. What I did worked, okay? It's beautiful. And now what I did was, since I don't want a floor tiller, I got a couple hours left. I put a line for 1/2 inch and I'm going to take it down to that line on the belt sander. I'm just going to try and get it to bend today. And I'm not going to attempt to steam it or recurve or anything. I really want to take some time and do it right and know I have the whole day to play with it, straighten it, align limbs, bend it, okay? So that's it. Taking down, I'm going to get a floor tiller today. I just want to add, get one of these sharpeners wherever you want to get them. The line, I believe it's a diamond one. The lines run from tip to handle, okay? And all you do is feel what side of your scraper has that burr. Put it in a vise and go back and forth on that angle towards the burr. Okay, no matter what cabinet scraper you have, no matter what you have, this is really a nice one from Pine Hollow Longbows. But I've used it and I needed to touch it up. I went back and forth a few times. I got a nice edge and it works, all right? It's not a big deal. And like I said, if you're using raw wood, just be careful it don't tear. Be gentle. Take your time. Don't rush through this. Okay, remember, black locust. Use your mask and goggles. It's an irritant. It's poisonous. I got a line. I'm going to take it down to the line. Yeah, I got them both moving about the same. Okay. What I like to do is, lately, I was always being safe and making these, I cut them at 5/8. And like I showed on the other video, I used a bandsaw to trim it. And I'd rather have it tilted in. I look at the back of the bow, and here's the blade, and I'd rather tilt it towards the top, towards the blade. So as I'm pulling it through, even if it's twisted, I'll have a little more meat on the bottom, right? Because it's real easy to twitch your hand and you ruined it. If you go away from the blade, next thing you know, you look, there's nothing left. You ruined the bow. So if you're going to use a bandsaw, I suggest that you go to a shop and learn how to use it. And just do what I do, is always leave a little more material. And the belt sander is a wonderful tool. You guys that like to use draw knives, that's okay. You see me use draw knives on almost every one of these too. But with the raw wood, because I'm making mostly raw wood, the draw knife likes to tear this soft raw wood. So I'd rather use the belt sander and cabinet scrapers. Okay, that's kind of my thing lately. And what I do is, because I'm making basically bows 50 pounds or under, for hunting I like it around 47. I take it down, I redraw my lines once it's trimmed, you know, once I went through the bandsaw, and I make it a 1/2 inch. I draw 1/2 inch lines. And I take it down to basically to that 1/2 inch line. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get it to flex evenly. Now this is still going to be a real heavy bow, and it's flexing. I got it moving a little bit. But since I'm going to recurve it, and I'm going to steam it, and I'm going to put it in my jig, and always the handle slide goes up when you're bending. All right, I have a strap that lays here, and as I bend it, the strap bends with it, so I don't have too many fibers splitting, lifting up, okay? But I'm telling you, this is still like a 60-pound bow or more, 70-pound bow, maybe even more. I don't know. It's a heavy bow. That's all I got to say. But because it's thinner, the steam will probably penetrate better, as long as I'm careful with that strap and put pressure on it to try and keep the grain from popping. And then after I have made the recurves and I fire harden it, a lot of times I fire harden a thicker bow, and I'm back here taking it down to get it to flex and tiller it, and I'm taking off an awful lot of the fire hardening, it seems like. So that's it. So the last bow I made, I took down to 1/2 inch. This one's going to be, I took down to 1/2 inch too. And just so it'll bend better, and just so some of the fire hardening will penetrate. Right? It's going to rain. As much as I'd love to put the curves on this today, I got to stop, clean up, put everything away, and go take a break. Just enjoy the day today, relax, because it's going to rain for like 3 days. And it's coming, I see the clouds. Once I got it floor tilted, I rounded all the edges. All these edges are nice and round, smooth, and I'm hoping that'll help prevent, you know, a grain lift when I put the curves in. All right, so nice and silky smooth, looks good. The rings, no rings to see. I follow a single ring painstakingly, and I can't wait. I can't wait to hopefully get a nice recurve out of this. Okay, good morning. It's kind of a damp, dreary day today, but today is the day that I'm going to attempt to recurve this black locust bow that I got. So I got the Wagner steamer on, and if you ever own one of these Wagner steamers, when you first plug it in, it doesn't make any noise. And it won't make any noise. It won't make any noise until it starts running. And then once it starts running, you can hear the sound, okay? So I have the pipe. You can start seeing some steam coming out. I'm going to put this in with the belly side down. Boy, I don't know, the belly side goes down. And I'm going to put a rag around it. I'm going to set the timer for an hour, and while we're letting that cook, I'll show you my jig. Figured I'd mention a couple of things. Doing something a little differently this time than I did in the past. The black locust bow that I made that failed last time, I didn't realize it. When I was scraping it with the draw knife, I trimmed out a bow blank, and I was scraping it, and there was a hardwood ring that I followed. But under that hardwood ring was about 1 inch of white rings, and then solid, darker hardwood rings. So after I made these bow blanks and I went to bend it and it broke and everything, somebody said to me, you know, Joe, even though you had that one little thin layer of hardwood, all those white layers underneath was sapwood, and you have to get rid of all of that sapwood. You know, that's the bow where I got poisoned on, you know, from the dust. So when I trimmed up this bow stave that I got cooking now, I made sure I trimmed off all of that white wood and then worked to get a solid ring. So there was no sapwood at all on this one I'm cooking now. And when I bent it, when I bent the other one, it cracked. It cracked, and I think it might have been because of that 50% sapwood, 50% hardwood. So I have a flexible strap that was near, like a safety belt almost you would see in a tree stand, you know, and I had it on a block, and I'd clamp it, and as I bent the wood, I hold that strap and bend it around. And what I'm doing this time that's different was, went to Harbor Freight. They have these yardsticks, which are kind of inexpensive, you know. And I'm going to put the yardstick on, okay. But it's put the yardstick on. I have one of these kind of quick clamps. See these clamps here? Rather than put it on and mess around with the screws, make sure it's open. I'm going to put it on like this here. Push it down and tighten it. Okay, now that's tight. And then I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab it with the metal and hold it and bend it all the way down tight as I can to keep the fibers from, you know, picking up. So that's new. First time I'm trying to use a metal strap, a metal yardstick to bend it. and I'm hoping it's going to work out good. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to get a bend. You always have sometimes a little fibers lifting when you make these recurve, when you make these bends. But I'm going to do everything I can. But once I have it set up like this and it looks aligned, I'll really put pressure here at the bend point and get it down and use my elbow to hold it down and finish clamping it. But this clamp here is like, I use these clamps to hold the jig down, and I says, you know what? I think these are faster than messing around with screw clamps, and they are. So that's it. Slides in, push the lever. Wish me luck, because I don't want this to fail. But if it does fail, it's part of bow making. You know, I'm not going to give up. All right, because I'm stubborn. But I'm hoping that this will get a nice bend, and this metal strap I'm going to use this time, which is cheap old Harbor Freight yardstick, I'm hoping that works. So, see you in an hour. When the alarm goes off, see you in an hour. Make sure you got your, you know how when we fire harden, I tell you have fireplace gloves? Well, make sure you got your kitchen pot holders for when the time's up and you pull this bow blank out to bend it, that you got those so you don't burn your hands, and you can put it on and clamp it. And all right, it's cold now, so I have my coat. I could use my coat to bend it down. I won't get burnt. See the steam? It's steaming really good. Look at this thing here. Now, Wagner steamer, see? You just use a towel. You use a towel, or this is old t-shirts that I have, and you just keep it. I have a couple of vent holes, so you're not building up a lot of pressure. You see the steam coming out. All right, and once again, that little Wagner steamer, if you ever buy one, when you plug it in, nothing happens. You're like, what? What's it dead? Because there's no light or nothing. And what happens is eventually, you'll hear it going. Hear that noise? I don't know if you can or not. But okay, we're good. We're good. See you in an hour. Remember, the handle goes up. Handle goes up. Get everything aligned. You want to be quick but accurate. Does it look? Looks pretty good. That's it. Here we go. Here goes nothing. I'm going to try my best not to break it. We still don't know if anything lifted up until it's over. Okay, now this handle's crooked. You can see the handle's crooked, right? I already set this up to fit here like this. Okay, and this is weight. I'm going to put weight here. I'm going to put another one here. Okay, made it a little straighter. Got one more big clamp here we're going to use to make sure it's good and snug here. Make sure it's nice and level. Flat with the clamp. Okay, let me take a look here. Seems to be fairly good. Of course, there's always some tweaking whenever you do this. Well, because there's no sapwood, it certainly appears that the grain, there's no grain lift. Okay? So we're going to let this like this cool. I'm going to actually shut off that steamer for a little bit because I'm going to use the heat gun after it cools to make sure it's set. I don't want no spring back. There's always going to be some spring back with this wood. This wood is pretty hard. It's always springy. Okay, good job so far. I'm going to shut it off. What I'm going to take the heat gun and go along the jig like this. I'm going to go along each side because obviously I got the metal strap there. I'm going to go along each side and heat it up just to try to help it take some set. Okay, it's cool to the touch, and the limb looks fairly straight. I just want to get it to stay that way as best I could before I steam the other side. So as you know, I've been experimenting with different woods. This is still a raw tree. This tree was cut down about 3 months ago, and I made it into a bow blank, and now I'm steaming it, putting curves in it. So I only did about 8 minutes, according to the timer, 8 minutes. And because I didn't want to develop any cracks from the heat gun, because I can only heat the sides. So I went back and forth on each side just to heat it. And I'm going to go fill up the steamer, let that cool, let it set, and start the steamer again for the other side. We'll see how much spring back we have. We're going to lay these and get these ready for the next one. So as they come off, we're going to lay them down a little looser. Here's the moment of truth. See what kind of spring back we get. Wow, beautiful, beautiful. All the yummy. Okay, let's check it out. No grain lift, no nothing. This is a raw stave that went for about 50 minutes, okay? Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna steam the other side. Let's check it out for straightness. Okay, the limb, this whole limb twists this way. And that's okay, because what we'll do is, let me see if you can see over here on this wet trailer here. See if I can show you. See the space here? What we'll do is we'll lay it flat, and what we'll do is I'll put a little something on each end of the limb and then push this down and heat it. I'll get it to go. It may take some time, but I'll straighten it out. I'm just happy I got the curves in. Cooking, the other side's cooking. And be honest with you, now that we're doing this fire hardening, it produces bows just as fast and with less fuss, you know, but I wanted a recurve. So whenever you make a recurve, you always have to straighten it out, align the limbs. It's a bit of work. Here we go, 55 minutes. Every second counts with this. Can't be playing around like this here. Hey, how you doing, man? I can't stop, so just put it down. Huh? Anyways, man, anyways. I'm making a recurve bow. Take care, man. Whenever you use a heat gun or heat treating anything, you gotta keep in mind that you're taking moisture out. So at some point, maybe if I have to continue another day, when I stop, I'm gonna get a wet rag and put moisture back in this. Okay, getting this good and hot, I just was able to move this over another 1/8 of an inch or so, which is big leaps and bounds for such a twisted bow stave here, a bow blank. Can't change Mother Nature. It's starting to get misty out. The rain's coming. I'm going to heat this limb up good, this one right here. Hopefully it'll help take a set. And the other good news is that I have this fairly straightened. Once I flip the clamps and this gets fire hardened, that fire hardening will make this straightness permanent. Okay, it's not like the little heat gun. It'll cook it straight. Okay, cook it straight. So that's it. It's looking good. And when I'm done, I'm going to get a wet rag and I'm going to put moisture in this. And it's going to stay for a couple of days. Well, now that it's all done, just got to show you. Don't be afraid. Put moisture back in this. Don't be afraid to wet it a couple of times. It's going to rain all day tomorrow. Garage. Right? We heated this up with the heat gun. When you heat wood up with the heat gun, it takes a lot of moisture out. I just want to show you something else too. This jig here was for a shorter recurve. And all I did was cut a wedge to fill in the space. And I got a clamp down. So we got a wedge in there. Alright, so a little longer, what do you call it? A little longer recurve, a little space filler there. And we're going to fire harden it. Okay, that's the end of this part of this video. Next, you'll see me fire hardening it, tillering it, shaping it, and shooting it.